Thursday, add and subtract fractions. Okay. So the test tomorrow is going to be open book.
Yes.
Please bring your math book, your multiplication chart, your percent notes, a pencil, an eraser, and your brain. Just leave your giraffes at home.
What's percent?
There's a page front and back with percent notes. There were 10 questions at the very bottom of the back that we did. Those are good notes for you. You might be wondering, Mrs. Franzen, we're reviewing percents, fractions, and decimals. What do those have to do with it?
Here.
Okay. Any ideas in my classroom? What do these have to do with percents, fractions, and decimals? Madison. Yep. In money, there can be percents. We can think of a penny as 1 cent or 1/100th of a dollar. If we write a penny as a decimal, we put the 1 in the hundredths place because it takes 100 of them to make a full dollar. Okay. Nickels are worth 5 cents. It's 5 out of 100 equal parts of a dollar, and you put the 5 in the hundredths place, so on and so forth. Now would be a great time for us to pass out those review packets for the kids that I have sent down with work to turn back. Let's find mine first. Nice. Okay, and that packet has these coins right on it. Yep. Make sure to leave one on coin steps and right. Finger steps.
Teachers, please remember to bring me your lunch count for tomorrow. We will be doing this indefinitely.
Okay, so if I have 25% of a dollar, what coin do I have? One coin that's 25% of a dollar. Chloe, if I have a coin that's 25% of a dollar, what coin do I have? Ask Jade, Chloe. A quarter, yes. A quarter is 25% of a whole dollar, isn't it? If I have a coin that is 100% of a dollar, it's this Susan B. Anthony, isn't it? Okay, there's other dollar coins that are out there now. One has an eagle, I think, in the back of it. I can't remember what's on the front. Okay, so if I have a tenth of a dollar, 10% of a dollar, what do I have, everybody? A dime. Okay, so you guys can see how fractions, decimals, and percents are related to one another by thinking about coins. Okay, these are common fractions that you would need to memorize the fraction, decimal, and percent for. And there's others as well.
Mrs. Principal Johnson, Mr. Sinnes needs you down in Mrs. Cobble's room.
Okay, so if we look at writing percents as fractions and we think conceptually first about the 100 10 by 10 grid, if I have a full grid, all the way full, that's like having that Susan B. Anthony, isn't it? It's how much percent? 100%. It's one whole. What if it's empty?
0%.
0%. Can there be 0%? Yes. What's the next one, the third one over?
4%.
Each corner is filled in, shaded in, so it's 4%. 96% of it is unshaded, right? What about this one? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns.
50%.
50%. Do we have to have them all in the same spot in order to work? No, we can put them in the middle like this. We have sets of 10 here. We have 10, 20,
30%.
30%, and we've done this one before. This was one of our homework assignment questions. Yep, 45%, very good. These three make 30%. And then if you think of this group of three having each with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of three. Yes. Is it 45%?
Yes.
21 plus 30?
That's 40.
51%? I'm getting 51% when I look at it that way as an area model. I was thinking it was 45% as well, but I was wrong. Hey, writing percents as fraction. A percent is the value of a part to whole ratio where the whole is 100. So you can write a percent as a fraction with a denominator of 100. And once you find your percent, you use the percent symbol to denote that you're talking about a percent. Okay. Now, get your markers ready. 174% looks like this. Okay, and we can simplify that fraction and we get 1 37/50. I want you to write this percent as a fraction in its simplest form. 5%. Write it as a fraction in its simplest form and then show me. You can write it both in the regular form of a fraction and then simplify it. Yep. Yep. Okay, grab a different one. Yep. Close. Yes.
I don't have one. Or
Okay, come on up front and get your own. Looks like Ty's gonna grab it for you.
thank you.
Close. Think of it. Okay, I'm seeing quite a few of us with the same answer. There's a few with a different answer. Okay. All right, go ahead and erase. I'm going to show you what that is. 5 over 100 is the same as 1/20th. I can divide both the top and the bottom by 5, and when I do that, I get 1/20th as a fraction. Okay, go ahead and try number 2, please. Get your markers out. You're missing something. You divided by 4?
Uh-oh.
Okay. So on this one, if you have more than 100%, you have a full set of 100, right? So your answer has to have a whole number in it. This has 168%. So this is the mixed number. And then the fraction would be whatever you get when you simplify your fraction. 68 divided by 4. Someone did that one. Was it Ethan?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we should have gotten. Okay, 1 whole is 100%. So we have 1 and 17/25. Do I need to write percent signs after these?
No.
No, because I've changed 8% into its fraction form. Now, number 3, 36 over 100. Can we simplify that puppy?
Yeah.
They're both divisible by 4, right?
Yeah.
So that one actually was pretty easy. Now finish by doing that last one. 83% has a fraction simplified. I wonder if 83 is prime. We could always look on our chart if we wanted to, but I'm just going to tell you 83 is prime. So All you would have to do to answer that question would be to write 8,300.
What?
Because 83 is prime. We can't break 83 into equal pieces with a whole number. Okay? So go ahead and erase your dry erase board. See what else we have to do here. I don't remember how many questions we were trying to do with those. Okay.
Oh, we gotta.
Here's the next one. Writing fractions as percents. To write an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 100, write the numerator with the percent symbol. Okay? So if you're given the fraction and you're told to write it as a percent, here's one of the ways you can do it. You can set it equal to 100 and then just multiply by the factor it needs to get to 100, both on the top and the bottom. Every single one of these on the bottom, it's possible. So what would be our answer for number 5 if I wanted as a percent? 62%. Because all I'd have to do is multiply by 2 over 2, and I get 62 over 100, which really means 62%. Try number 6, please. I know 20 times 4. Oh, Mrs. Franzen, you need to drink some more coffee. It's not 20 times 4, it's
20 times 5.
oh. Oh.
Ow.
Well, I was thinking it was 96, but I guess you guys are right. Why was I thinking it was 96? Oh, because I was still thinking about multiplying by 4. I got that stuck in my head. So it's 95%, right? You have 19 out of 20. Mrs. Franzen says you can do this by setting it equal to 100 as well.
1%.
No, we have 1/200. So now I want to know how much is it as a percent. What did we do to the 200?
We added the,
We divided by
100%.
2. Can you divide a 1 by 2?
No.
You can. You get a decimal answer. 1 divided by 2 is a decimal answer, right?
Yeah. Whoa. You have to divide.
All right. So 1 divided by 2 is 5/10 or half, right? So that is 50%? No. That's way too big, isn't it?
5%.
It's just 0.5%. Because 0.5 over 100 is what a half of a percent would be.
Oh. 2 over 2. So it's 100.
So 1 over 2, if I multiply both the top and the bottom by 50, right, I get 50 over 100. And that would be 150. A lot of you already had that. You didn't even do the fraction thing, did you? You knew 1 out of 2 was 50%. So you just took 100% and stacked a 50 next to it. Okay? So that is taking fractions and writing them as percent. We can do that. It's possible. And it's actually one of the easier things to do for our test tomorrow. Okay? Now the next thing we need to remember is on page 170 in your math book. Remember, we get to have our math books open tomorrow. So you might want to be looking back at that when you're told to write a percent as a decimal and you don't remember which way our decimal point moves. Could you go to page 170 and check it?
Yes.
Yes, on page 170, if you start with a percent, you're given the percent of 23%, and told to change it into a decimal, all you do is move 2 places to the
Right.
left. Right? Okay. So if you're given a decimal and told to switch it back into a percent, you move to the
Right.
how many places always?
2.
Always 2 places because you need to get to the 100th, right? Or away from the 100th, whichever it is that you're moving from. Okay? So you might notice that that little note is also on your notes page. Okay? Now, we probably don't need our whiteboards anymore because we'll be writing right on our test paper, not our test paper, but our study guide. Okay. Now this I don't think is part of your worksheet, is it? Okay. But is this saying exactly the same thing that's said on page 170? It is. If you're starting with a percent and told to change it to a decimal, you move 2 places to the left or divide by 100. If you're starting with a decimal and told to change it to a percent, the exact opposite thing, then you move to the right exactly 2 decimal places because you're multiplying by 100. Okay? Or maybe I have that challenge next. Oh, yeah. Okay, Franzen's class. Multiply 60 by 100. Write your answer on your
600.
pocket folder.
Wait.
Don't say it out loud. Just write it down. Miss Lewis, multiply, your class is going to multiply 60 by 0.01. Allen's, please divide 60 by 100. And Mueller's, please divide 60 by 0.01. All right. 60 times 100. 6,000. Miss Lewis's class, 60 divided by 100. Oh, I switched over to Miss Mueller's. Miss Mueller's class should have gotten 6,000 as well. Okay. Let's see who else pops up now. 0.6% for Lewis. And Miss Allen's class, also 0.6%.
Well, that one.
So check and see if you see something going on there. Think about that when I give you the next challenge. It's very similar. Okay. Francis class, multiply by 100. Lewis's class, multiply 2.5 by 100. Allen's class, divide 2.5 by 100. And Mueller's class, divide 2.5 by 100. All right. So Mrs. Franzen's class, when we multiplied 2.5 by 100, what did we get? 250. That decimal moved 2 places to the right, didn't it?
Yes.
Okay. What do you suppose is going to happen with Miss Mueller's? Mrs. Mueller's answer in her class should be exactly the same, 250. Because multiplying by 100 and dividing by 100th is the same thing. Okay? And then the opposite is true for Miss Lewis and Miss Allen. Their answer is going to be 0.025. The decimal moved 2 places to the
Right. My left.
left. Okay? And each time we're either multiplying or dividing by a 100. So what do we notice about those challenges? Basically, switching between decimals and percents is the same as multiplying and dividing by powers of 10, like we did in the challenge. That is why we only need to worry about moving 2 places, either to the right or the left, when we're dealing with our percent. Okay, so multiplying by 100 is the same as dividing by 1/100th. And the opposite is true. Dividing by 1/100th is the same as multiplying by 100. Freaky, huh?
No.
I think it's cool. Okay, and so you can see the answers side by side above one another here. Okay. So we've talked about writing fractions as decimals and percents. We've talked about writing percents and fractions back as decimals again. Then we need to think about ordering decimals and percents and solving percent problems, and we'll be ready to go. Okay? So now is when I'd like you to go ahead and get ready to start working on those practice problems. Okay, we're doing them all together today. Number 1, write 21/25 as a percent. Okay, on that one, is 25 a factor of 100? Yeah. So on your paper, I'd like you to say multiply by 4/4, which is really the same as multiplying by 1. And then we end up with a 100 on the bottom and an 84 on the top. So what's our answer for number 1? 84%.
Well, my paper is.
There's staples if they come undone, you guys, you can just staple them. Now to change a 20 into a 100, we multiply by 5. And we talked about 17 times 5 earlier, didn't we? No, we did 19 times 5, which was 95.
So this is 70.
So 21/25 is really close to 17 out of 20, isn't it? Okay. The 1 stands for 100%, we know that. But what does the 2/5 stand for? For that, we'll multiply by 20/20, because that's how we get to 100 on the bottom.
So it's 100, 100.
Because that whole number there stands for one full set of 100%.
Well, the next ones are easy.
Okay, if you're given a decimal and you're told to change it to a percent, which direction does the decimal travel? To the right. How many places? 2 places. So my decimal's here and it needs to move that direction 2 places. So our answer for number 4 is 42%. Same thing's going to happen for number 5. We're told to write the decimal as a percent, so the decimal has to travel 2 places to the right.
788.
788%. Okay. And then finally for number 6, we're given a decimal. Again, we move to the right 2 places to change it into a percent.
It's 500.
58 and 54/100%. We'd probably round that up to 59, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, the writing a percent as a fraction in its simplest form. This percent as a fraction would be 96/100, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Can we write that in its simplest form?
No.
Should be able to. We could start by dividing by 2, but I'm pretty sure that we would be able to divide it by 4.
Someone texted me on the.
It's okay. 7.
Alright.
That wouldn't be 96/100 because that's not quite a percent. That's 0.96%.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's not a decimal. It's an actual percent, isn't it?
I don't know.
You guys see what he's saying?
No.
If it's already a percent, look at it. This has already got a percent sign by it. And it says it's 96%, 96/100 of a percent. So we're not quite to 1%, right? So he's saying if we write it as a fraction in its simplest form and as a decimal, let's switch it first to a decimal instead of to a fraction. What would this percent be as a decimal?
0.96.
You're given a percent, which direction do you move?
Left. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's look back at our notes on page 170.
Left.
I think I'm having problems here. Just a minute. Where's that puppy one? You should not be out of your seat, sweetie. How do I get to that? Oh, here it is. This'll work. Hey, they gave us a percent, right? Because they said 0.98%. So we're starting with the percent. Which direction do we move?
Left.
Okay. So this will help you see what Ethan's saying here. Promise you. Well, it's because I put those sorry, it's taking forever to get back. Okay, so this actually would be 0.0096 if we write it as a decimal. Okay, because we were given the percent. Thank you for catching that. We were given the percent. If we change it to the decimal, then we change it to the fraction. What would the bottom number of our fraction have to be?
6.
The 6 is in what place value?
60.
Yes, because we have the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So this one would be 96 over 10,000. Cray, cray. Can we simplify that?
No.
Yes, we can. I would start with dividing by 4 because I think 96 can be evenly divided by 4. Actually, 96 can be divided. What's 9 plus 6?
14.
15. Is 15 divisible by 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's even. It's divisible by 3. So we could actually divide it by 6. Is 10,000 divisible by 6?
Yeah.
Probably not evenly. So yeah, let's go with 4. Let's see if 96 is divisible by 4. I got excited for a second there.
$24 over.
Never mind, it's a 0. So then we'd have 24 over 10,000. No, we wouldn't have 24 over 10,000 because the 10,000 would also have to be broken down.
Yeah. 5. 4.
Oh man, we should have divided it by 6. Can we divide 24 in half again?
Yeah.
And can we divide 2,500 in half as well?
Yeah. By 5.
They're not both divisible by 5. Holy. Are those both still divisible by 2? So you're saying we could have divided the whole thing by 8? So what is 12 divided by 2? Holy smokes, so now I have to take this number and divide it by 2?
6.
Yeah, I can do 2 here.
$6.25. Which can be, again,
No.
Then we're done. 6 will not go into 625. 6 plus 2 is 8, and 8 plus 5 is how much?
40.
6 plus 2 is 8,
13.
plus 5 more is 13.
Oh.
So not only is it not divisible by 2, it is not also divisible by 3 or 6. Okay? So what would be another method of simplifying that fraction? Could we have done the prime factorization of 96 over the prime factorization of 10,000?
Yes.
Just, just because we enjoy doing that, let's do that. Let's do a factor tree for 96 and do a factor tree for 10,000, please. Go. Those are crazy big factor tree prime factorizations, aren't they? But we're going to see that we actually could have divided by 16, both on the top and the bottom, right? 2 times 3 is 6. 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 again is 125, times 5 again is, okay. 2 ways to simplify that weird fraction. I think making the factor tree is a funner way to do it because constantly dividing by 2s and 4s is kind of silly when you're going to be doing it several times over and over again, but it's up to you. Just as long as you know its simplest form. How do we know it's in simplest form? Well, let me tell you. We know it's in the simplest form if the factors on the top and the bottom don't have any common factors. Since the number 6 has no common factors with the 625, that is as simplest form as we can get it. There aren't any weird ones like that on your test, okay? Now that we've done that one, number 8 should be easy.
Yeah, okay.
65%, please write it as a decimal and then show me. Show me 65% as a decimal. Very good. So that is a different one. So all of my kids said it's 65 hundredths, right? Now write it as a fraction in its simplest form. 65 and 100 both have the common factor of 5, and that's it, I promise. 65 divided by 5 is 100 divided by 5 is? Okay, so this will be our answer for the fraction, simplest form as a fraction, and this is our answer for the decimal value. Notice that question tells you to write the percent as the simplest form of a fraction and as a decimal, so that had 2 answers as well. Okay. Now, 25 and 7/10%. Please write it as a decimal. You've been given the percent, so move that decimal 2 places to the left. Very good. So when we move 2 places to the left, we end up with 0.257. It's no longer a percent, it's the decimal form. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Since the 7 is in the thousandths place, what do we have to use as a denominator? 1,000. Because 0.257, just like the 6 was in the 10,000ths place when we stood it behind the decimal, the 7 is in the thousandths place. And simple fact about 257 is a prime number.
Yay.
257 is prime, so we are actually simplified at that point. Okay, so this is the decimal version of that percent. This is the fraction in its simplest form. Okay. Questions?
No.
So there'll be a few questions just like this on your test. Actually, I think half the test looks like this.
Yay.
Okay, but none of them have the really weird fractions to simplify like we did on number 7. There's a couple 3 that look like this. Order these numbers from least to greatest. And remember, in your answer, you have to use the original numbers. Okay, so I want you to try number 12 the way you'd like to try it. If you want to change 85% into a decimal, 7/10 into a decimal, 74 hundredths is already a decimal, and 4/5 as a decimal, go ahead and do it like that. If you want to change them all to percents, go ahead and do it like that. However you do it, you need to make them all the same kind of number so that you can actually compare them to order them from least to greatest. I'll give you a few minutes to calculate while I take a swig of coffee.
Yeah, you need some.
I do. So I like to go ahead and show you if we change them all to fractions, right? 85% as a fraction, 7/10 is a fraction, 74 hundredths is a fraction, and 4/5 is a fraction, okay? But I need to switch them to fractions that are all the same. So I'm gonna do the weird thing. I'm gonna take 4/5, and I'm gonna multiply it so it's a fraction with 100 at the bottom. 5 times 20 is 100, so 4 times 20 is
40.
good. Now, all I needed to do the 7/10 was multiply by 10, so that's what I did.
70.
Okay, so those are all fractions now, and I can see the smallest fraction is the 7/10, right? Because it was only 70 hundredths. And the next smallest fraction is the 74 over 100, but it was written originally as 0.74. Okay, so the next smallest number is the 80 over 100, which started out as 4/5, didn't it? And then the final answer is 85%, which was 85 over 100. Okay, so I can separate those by commas, or I can put them in boxes, however you want to answer them. Some people put them on number lines. Mrs. Franzen really likes number lines, they're great. But just as long as you remember to use the original numbers, do not reorganize your new numbers from least to greatest. And then also pay attention when you're reading your test questions. Are they always going to say least to greatest, or
No.
could they tell you greatest to least sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah, so read them carefully. Okay, questions on how to do that?
No.
Okay, let's reorganize the next group of numbers. Some of you already have. Good job. Okay, this time I decided to go with decimal. The very smallest decimal was the one I got when I divided 6/5. It was 1.2. The next smallest decimal I got was 1.25, which was what I got when I divided 5/4. Okay. The next smallest decimal was the actual decimal, 1.28. And then 130% was the next smallest decimal. And finally, 1.32 was the largest decimal. Okay. So that is how I reorganized my original numbers. I first changed them to decimal. Could I have changed them all to percent? Yes. Could I have changed them all to fractions? Yes. Or mixed numbers in this case. Okay. So there will be a couple like this on your math test. And guess what? We might have to push that math test back to Wednesday instead of Tuesday because we only have 10 minutes left of class, right? And we still haven't even finished half of our review.
What?
Okay? So this is what you're going to do for the remainder of this class period. You are going to work on the remainder of the review paper that you have in front of you and do your very best to answer the remaining questions as homework. Okay? But am I collecting them tomorrow?
No.
No, we're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to go over the answers and how to answer those questions correctly. And then instead of having the test tomorrow, it's Wednesday, but it's still open book. Don't worry about that. That won't change. It'll be just one day later, and then we'll only get one day of adding and subtracting fractions at the end of the week. Okay? Does that sound fair to you guys?
Yes.
Hey, so you have 2 days to prepare for this test instead of just one night. That's even better, isn't it? Okay, so Remainder of math class, you're going to work independently on the remaining questions. Don't forget to bring this paper back with you tomorrow so we can finish reviewing for the test tomorrow, okay? You may begin working.